So if the law says a maximum of 10 years, it means the judicial officer has a discretion to decide between 0 and 10. But then we have a document which a policy called the sentencing policy or sentencing guidelines that determine that guide judges on how sentencing works. A good lawyer does not defend clients. The primary work for a defense lawyer is to challenge evidence. Kama uko na lawyer wako anaenda kotini anasema huyu jamaa hakufanya hivi, you need to fire that lawyer. Then they're doing you a very big disservice.
Mambo vipi, karibu kwa mara nyingine na it's another episode. Nimemtafuta wakili ambao umekuwa kimuona sana kwa muda mrefu pale kwenye mtandao wa kijamii wa TikTok. Anajulikana kama wakili nani?
Kwa majina anaitwa Elvis Abenga.
Of course, Elvis Abenga, utazungumza na Kiswahili ama English ama zote?
Zote tu.
Awesome. Elvis, I've been following you for a while on TikTok, giving legal advice. Probably unaweza jiintroduce, seme Elvis Abenga anafanya kazi na law firm gani? Na umekuwa kwa hii kazi kwa muda upi?
Okay. My name is Elvis Abenga. I practice at biggest law offices and chambers. I have been a lawyer for about 10 years now. I also teach at Kenya School of Law. I train lawyers, I train advocates, lawyers becoming advocates. I also teach at Kisii University, where I teach the law program from first year to fourth year.
Whenever people hear lawyers, ama wakikutana na lawyers wanatarajia kukutana na mtu tough. Yani mtu no nonsense. Sijui, is that a right notion kweli?
No, lawyers are just like any other person really. Sisi tu ni watu wa kawaida tu, tunafanya kazi yetu. Kazi yetu ni kusaidia watu mambo ya sheria, going to court, giving advice.
And of course tukizungumza kuhusu ile kazi ambayo umekuwa ukifanya kwenye TikTok, you have been giving people legal advice, especially nimeona pale umeandika in matters to do with family and divorce. Kwani kuna specialization ikifika kwa law?
Kuna specialization. Kuna lawyers, when ukifanya kazi for a period of time, you find kuna something which you become very good at, an area or two. Like for me, I do a lot of family law, criminal law, human rights issues, but academically, my specialization is in commercial law. So it's a bit, sometimes it can be confusing, but kuna specialization either academically ama kwa field. When you're working, you develop skills na even preferences.
And of course, Elvis, tukiangalia kwa ile kazi ambayo umekuwa ukifanya pale sana recently I saw you talking about matters to do with criminal law. And right now kumekuwa na fracas kwenye mitandao ya kijamii, people committing all types of crimes. And in such cases where you meet maybe you meet a client who wants you to defend them in court, where do you start na mnamalizanga aje?
Okay. First of all, lawyers, a good lawyer does not defend clients. For those who've watched any of my TikTok videos, you'll know at some point I usually say, it is not our work to say, you didn't do it, ama kitu kama hiyo. The primary work for a defense lawyer is to challenge evidence. Just that. Challenge evidence, creating what we call reasonable doubt. Because ukishatengeneza hiyo doubt, then you win the case as that. So because kazi ni ya serikali prove that someone has committed the crime. So our job is just to ensure that they don't prove their case.
So a good lawyer doesn't go and say my client did not do it.
Kama uko na lawyer wako anaenda kotini anasema huyu jamaa hakufanya hivi, you need to fire that lawyer. Yeah, then they're doing you a very big disservice. Yeah.
And wakili, now coming back to criminal law, and when you go into criminal law, especially in these incidents that was happen right now on the internet, people have been able to categorize the recent matters, Starlet, Wahu, and the recent matter in TRM as femicide. When in such cases, how do you approach that such cases as a lawyer?
I don't know what you mean, approach in the sense of
like ukiangalia vitu kama hizo, can you categorize them as femicide?
Yeah, okay, femicide is a word that was coined actually a few years back when there was an increase in gender-based violence and killings. But yeah, it is still homicide, just like any other homicide. Only that the victim most of the time in this case happens to be women.
And if in that case, in such cases where somebody is found guilty of murder or rather committing such an act, charges zitakuwa ni gani? Atakuwa for jail time or fined for how many years?
So murder usually carries a death sentence.
What?
Yes, it used to carry a mandatory death sentence. But the Supreme Court outlawed the mandatory death sentence. So the court has a discretion from 0 all the way back at death. Yeah, but most people who are convicted end up getting life sentences instead of death sentences, because nowadays court has the power to decide. Before 2020. Actually, or 2019, it was a straightforward mandatory death sentence, just like robbery with violence. Yeah. And
I've also seen other people being jailed for maybe 10 years, 5 years, and wanatolewa. How come such sentences they differ?
Courts take a lot of things in order to determine what sentence is given, because the penal code usually sets maximum sentences. So you will hear maximum of 10 years, maximum of 20 years, or whatever times. So if the law says a maximum of 10 years, it means the judicial officer has a discretion to decide between 0 and 10. But then we have a document which a policy called the sentencing policy or sentencing guidelines that determine that guide judges on how sentencing works. They take into account the nature of the offense. They take into account issues like, is this person a first offender, a repeat offender, ameshikwa before ama hii ni mara yake ya kwanza? What does the victim and the victim's family say? What does this person, is he remorseful himself or herself? All there are so many factors that are taken into account. Then the judicial officer can decide what sentence to pass.
Wow. Now, wakili, tukiangalia in such cases, now there are people who will say that in such cases unapata ilikuwa ni self-defense. Now, how would you be able to prove that this guy alikuwa anajidefense? And most cases unapata mtu alikuwa amejidefend, but eventually they end up being jailed.
The difference when it is self-defense is a defense by itself, to a murder charge. What it does is it lowers the charge from murder to manslaughter. Because for murder to be murder, there must be an element of intent. Ulikuwa na hiyo nia, like the person intended and planned and acted on that intent and killed someone. That malice. But manslaughter doesn't have the intent, the mental aspect of it. So someone can argue self-defense and it can end up being manslaughter. And then also the nature of the circumstances determine the kind of sentence, or even if someone will be convicted or not.
So in cases like a manslaughter, the maximum years that somebody can be jailed in, how many years?
It's a maximum of life. So, but you see, there's that discretion again, as I said, yeah, that the court has to take into account. So the people who've been jailed for 1 year, manslaughter, yeah, and others have ended up 20, 30 years. So inategemea na circumstances around how that offense was committed. Yeah.
Wakili, tukiwa in that case bado, when somebody is defending themselves, maybe for instance a licensed firearm holder, akozile amepatikana in a scenario where he's forced to use his firearm to defend himself. Why would such a person be jailed na alikuwa anajidefend pale na kuna evidence ya kwamba these people were planning to kill me?
Yeah, not in such times, some people, a lot of them actually don't get jailed, they get acquitted. Yeah, that's why I'm saying it is on a case-by-case basis. Yeah,
such cases ambapo somebody is trying to defend themselves from maybe thugs who are armed, when that person is taken to court, evidences are provided that this guy was indeed trying to defend themselves. Most probably that person might be acquitted, right?
Yeah, I once represented someone who was attacked at night by thugs. They came with a knife, knives actually here. So in the process of he was with his wife and children. So the first room they broke in, they got in, was his room with the one he was sharing with his wife. And he was able to overpower one of them. And in the process, he used that thug's knife and stabbed him with his own knife. And that thug died. So, of course, when the police did their thing, they decided, let's charge and see what the court says. The court acquitted him on the basis of self-defense. Aliachiliwa akaenda. Yeah. So... yeah, that's what I say when I say that the court takes into account a lot of factors. Yeah, but Pierre, that defense of self-defense can be misused a lot. Yeah.